Hi again, I'm Sal Buscemi, CEO of Dandrew Media and co-founder and managing director at Dandrew Partners here in New York City. Let me ask you a question. We're a little more than halfway through this series as we begin our fourth video of our 9-part 5-minute fundamentals mini-series on commercial deal structuring secrets. Are you starting to look at the world a little differently now? Do you no longer feel constrained by having to qualify at a bank and get a loan in order to participate in commercial real estate deals? I hope I'm empowering you just like I have for hundreds of others. In this video, we're going to talk about how to get equity when providing a simple bridge loan. There's a few tricks to it, or as I like to call it, gamesmanship. Now that you're able to size up most commercial deals like a seasoned pro, you now know how to engineer the transaction to your benefit. And this is one of those strategies that the industry pros use day in and day out. So enough talk, let's get right to the whiteboard. Welcome back, and now we're on to our fourth strategy here on commercial deal structuring secrets. This is the way the pros do it, with little to no money into the deals themselves and how you can participate as an intermediary with little to no cash or credit. So let's move on. We're going to break it down a little slower here. Number 4, we're talking about simple bridge loan with passive equity. Bridge loans are all over the place. You got to think of bridge loans as a form of hard money lending for commercial real estate. And a lot of the smaller balanced players who make loans between $2 and $30 million make bridge loans. And those bridge loans are something that we talk about during the webinar that you'll soon find out are short-term loans, higher interest rates, but the capital providers or the institutional lenders don't really care about credit. They care about experience and the basis of which you're getting in at the asset. Remember the first video we were talking about here had to talk about how we were looking behind the numbers to see if this was really a good deal or not. And we wanted to get into what we call a good, strong basis. Meaning, putting an example of a residential home, if it's a $140,000 home and you're buying it for $80,000, that's a strong basis because you have a lot of equity in that property from the get-go. So let's get on here. Suggested uses. This is perfect for people who have found something interesting to buy. They don't have all the capital they need, and mostly you're going to see this as it relates to value-added properties, rehab properties that need work done. These are properties that don't qualify for conventional bank loans or from life companies. So you want to keep it in mind. These are short-term loans that are great for fixer-upper commercial properties. The second thing that I haven't written on the board here could be used, and one of our student intermediaries is doing, is that he's actually doing the same strategy we're talking about here with loans that are coming due and borrowers who need new capital like they need oxygen. You can negotiate equity, or what we call hope certificates, passive equity stakes, into these deals. And I can tell you there's no greater feeling in the world than knowing that you have passive equity stakes in a lot of commercial deals without having to deal with tenants, repairs, toilets, and everything else that you can think of, which is the stereotypical landlord that you think of when you think of hard times dealing with tenants and toilets. How it's structured. This is important. Before a term sheet is issued, or you know that your capital provider or institutional investor is going to provide you with a term sheet, you want to make sure you have a conversation with the borrower. Now that borrower's conversation is going to go like this. Hey, I believe in you. I think you have a great product here. I think you know exactly what you're doing, and you're going to be able to reposition this property beautifully. However, I also know that you're kind of cash constrained, aren't you? How about if I took equity in lieu of my fees? Is that something that would sound appealing to you? That would probably take a lot of burden and a lot of stress off of your balance sheet. What do you think? Believe it or not, 9 times out of 10, they will say, yes, we will do that. And then at that point, that's when you're dancing. You're always going to start with 10. You'll probably wind up with 5. But still, 5 is better than nothing. And remember, once this asset is repositioned, you have equity in an asset that is worth much more than what it was actually acquired for. 2, you want to make sure that your capital partner places you onto the term sheet as part of an equity holder. And this is done, as I talk about this, on the term sheet, and you're going to be integrated into the term sheet as far as being a part owner, 10%, 5% in the SPE or the special purpose entity. Number 3, you collect fees, passive equity interest, and new holding company. Now, sometimes there's other fees, success fees, whatever, you can negotiate. I wouldn't really get too greedy here. I'd rather take the equity and shut up and run, especially if the operator or sponsor is very qualified and he just happens to be down on his luck. You're going to find that there's going to be a lot more opportunities where if you help people and you release the burden of having to be greedy and having them give you fees, there's going to be a lot more opportunity for you to wheel and deal and create more wealth here. The income streams here off of this one is a passive equity stake. Remember, you forgave your upfront fees, you're taking equity, but you're only doing that if the sponsor is qualified and he knows what he's doing, and that's something that you have to ask yourself with your gut. Do they have a transactional resume? Do they have a deal sheet? Have they done this before? Or is this their first deal where you're becoming simply the research and development department for their experience. That's something you don't want to get into. It's moderately aggressive. It happens more in down markets than in up markets. So when capital is plentiful and it's out there, you're going to see that a lot of these deals are not going to be, you're not going to get a lot of equity deals like this as part of your incentives. So you have to, pickers have to be choosers. The best asset class to work on these, my favorite, condo conversions. We have an intermediary named Tony who talks about this on the webinar. He talks himself on video about how he was able to do this with one of his deals. And they're great for income producing properties, for value added especially, kind of difficult to do for stabilized. Stabilized usually goes towards life companies and other types of lenders. Land and free and clear properties. Remember, with land, they have to be fully entitled and platted, not anything that's raw or zoned, or, we got to make sure that you have, as it relates to the land, that you can actually start building vertically on top of it. So I hope you're getting a lot out of this. The strategy might not have been that advanced. However, on the webinar, there's a lot more advanced strategies, and I want to make sure that you guys are getting the most value out of this. So let me know. Tell me what you're thinking about this. And while you're doing that, we're going to move on to the next strategy, which I can't wait to share with you.